simple, just like the way we saw from the presentation a while back about how Estonia is doing that. And in fact, for all of this work, we need to have a lot of policies in place. A lot of policies that we make should be grounded in data. If we have enough data to make proper decisions, and the data is done based on live, authoritative data, our policies will be grounded. They will have evidence because they have data to back them up, proper, accurate, reliable data. And whatever services that we build for our citizens, these data will be transparent. And most importantly, they'll be data-driven. Data-driven in the sense they have accurate information. The citizens can rely on them. The government can ensure that these data are actually completely accurate and trustable. And this means we'll also be able to make smarter decisions, making better responses whenever we have to respond to cases for citizens or for any other case. However, a lot of our technology is changing. Artificial intelligence, innovative technologies, economic efficiency, all of these things are new technologies and new investment that comes into the country. And again, the key important fact is we don't have data that we can rely upon to mature these technologies. And that is where you need, again, accurate access to proper data. Therefore, we need to designate key digital registers as a single source of truth, as authoritative source of data. So that is where they are collected. Multiple agencies that are collecting data as a single source. Specifically, a specific organization collecting data on health, somebody else collecting data about some other information about citizen. So there has to be a single source for such data. Additionally, once you have such data registries built in place, you need the software layer. You need the logical layer that's going to collect this data and facilitate exchange, facilitate shareability, provide shareable mechanism. So developing these strong data sharing policies become an important principle, an important action that we need to do before we share any data. Because currently, as you have just heard one of our participants discuss here, he said, the information that we have collected were collected by us, we collected them. Therefore, we would like to have them, use them. But this is, generally speaking, this is the wording of a private company. Usually a private company will say such thing, for example, because they would say, okay, this is our data. If you go to, for example, the RAG or Ridu or something like for data, they would say, this is our data. We can't give you our data. We are making business decisions using this data. Therefore, they may not provide this data. That is accurate for them. But for a government institution providing services for the citizens, we need to make our data shareable. Whoever is collecting the data has to be made in a form which can be shared to other agencies in a manner, in a policy-based session, in a specific framework. So at the moment, this is the scenario. At the moment, we don't have these data. We have multiple agencies. They have isolated systems, isolated data entries, isolated databases of similar data, sometimes accurate, sometimes different. A lot of those data are redundant as well. And many of you who are all working on data, who are working on statistics, will know this is the case currently. Therefore, there is no existing framework, there is no existing infrastructure even to have this data sharing platform properly hosted, set up, allowed to have the mechanism. And when I say no dedicated infrastructure for data sharing, I did not mean centralizing these data, because we also heard some of the discussion during the previous session about centralization of some of the data. That is not the principle here. The principle here is providing that infrastructure where the data sharing can be enabled. That is not the same as centralizing the data. The data sharing practices vary widely across institutions, and that is the reason why they don't want to share the data or they are hesitant to share the data. And most of the time, there is no principle defining them which data can be shared and which data cannot be shared, what are the optional data that has to be shared, what are the mandatory data that has to be shared. There is no principle defining these. Therefore, the data is not shared. Hence, in this summit, the Maldives 2.0 Act is going to have a lot of the legal foundations for governance and for interoperability of these systems or frameworks of how they have to be generally developed as policies to emphasize, to enforce these principles. I would like to bring into your attention the NEMAD project. This is one of the projects that is already going on, which caters way forward for one of these objectives as well. Because the DMAD project that is already going on has one of its components that is financing the technical assistance for data architecture. And it is one of the projects funded by the World Bank. Additionally, it also funds the data sharing platform as a way by enhancing existing EFAS platform. This is already something that is budgeted, that we are preparing, that we are working on, which means we are already really ahead to have our digital ID platform connected to this data sharing platform, which makes it really easier. And it's important to realize here, the digital ID platform being connected to the data sharing platform makes it really, really easy because already the citizen is authenticated now. It's easier for the citizen to integrate with it, to provide the consent, and also, as I discussed earlier, even if the data is not centralized, the citizen's access authentication is centralized through the EFAS, through the digital ID mechanism. So this is also one of the ongoing projects that is in progress that will pave the path for the data sharing platform. During this summit, you heard many people say MDS, Maldives Digital Service. So Maldives Digital Service, once it is formed properly, which is one of the objectives of this summit as well, this will own these national data governance. It will make sure that these coordinations, the initial coordinations are done and create a culture of data sharing, create a culture of openness, because that is something that is lacking at the moment. In many agencies, there is no willingness to share the data, mainly because of policies, mainly because of absence of defining who is to share which data. So this clarity has to be brought. Additionally, there is no defined principle that says you are the owner of this data, you are the owner of this data, you are the owner of this data. We need to define that because sometimes 2 or 3 agencies are taking responsibility of the same data set. And you have no authoritative digital register for that specific data set, whether it's talking about health, whether it's talking about education sector, or other types of data related to health. It is a little bit vague. In many cases, when we say health, people usually associate Ministry of Health, for example, with that. Fine, but at the same time, there is nothing preventing someone else from doing the same thing. Collecting similar data, a council, LGA, or anyone else trying to do the same thing that the health ministry is doing, for example, because they would like to make the life of citizens better. So this needs to be defined clearly. This needs to be emphasized a lot. Of course, for us, as we saw, this is all about citizens. It's all about making our life easier. That way, a lot of manual work that we are doing will be gone. Whatever data that has been collected somewhere else becomes available for the next system, for another system, whether you are applying for marriage, whether you are applying for divorce, whether you are applying for housing scheme, education loan, or even a bank loan for that matter. The data is shareable. We have to make up a framework, a policy where we have to say how to share this data and who to share the data. And this, because of lack of those principles and digital registries, there is a lot of conflict in records. And unified digital registers are something that we need. Again, a lot of repetitive form filling can be stopped. There will be seamless cross-agency workflows because of this. Right now, because we don't have the data, we make a lot of guesswork. We have to make data-backed decisions. The trust. We have heard a lot of people talking about trust. How can we trust you? How can we trust this data? How can we trust this data is protected? How can we trust the cybersecurity agency will protect our data? All these are questions that people have because they have low trust. Once you have proper, transparent, traceable data access, it becomes very easy to trust. As we saw this morning in our colleagues from Estonia, people trust the government because it's very, very transparent. It's traceable. Who is collecting my data? For what? I can see that. I can allow people, okay, today I will allow this specific person to see my health records. Tomorrow, I will stop that if I want. Right? That is something we can do because it's shareable, it's traceable. Therefore, there is no more repeated documentation related to these things. Providing services for benefits, for eligibility, becomes automatic, becomes seamless. The timely, updated, reflected data becomes available for all agencies. That also means faster and more accurate services, of course. For the data sharing platform, for the data exchange layer, these are some of the programs that are shown here in priority in terms of what we have planned and how we are planning them, such as designating key digital registers, identifying the policies that needs to be created and working on them, creating them actually. Data sharing middleware, the software, what is it that we are going to use? How are we going to allow our people to share the data? Are we going to use X-Road? We just saw a presentation on X-Road. Or is there any better way to do this work? A lot of technical people will be concerned about the shareability, the technology, how the data is being shared, what kind of interfaces are they using, what kind of technology are they using, what kind of APIs are they using? Because all of this matter when it comes to a proper platform. For an exchange layer, there should be multiple properties that we have to analyze and study. Very important, for example, in the modern world, everything has to be hostable on a cloud platform. And it has to be containerizable, for example. It must support containers-based implementations. These kind of technical issues matter when it comes to a platform. And that is the reason why we need to study that. We need to identify what is best for Maldives, what is best for us. Additionally, Maldives 2.0 Act, as I said earlier, will be one of the main goals that's going to unite all these efforts and create an agreed upon policy and procedure that we are going to commit, that we are going to do this work together. At the moment, we have these key digital registries that we are already discussing with, working with, negotiating with, and one of the key digital registries is the DNR, for example, the Department of National Registration, Ministry of Health, LGA, MIRA, our education ministries, and the transport ministries. A lot of them already have a lot of their data, and they are authoritative people who are managing the data. We have to agree upon, we have to make sure that we decide those registries officially, formally, and give them the authority, and make sure that no one else does what they are doing right now. No one duplicates the same data that they have. A lot of legal alignments proposed for the entire Maldives 2.0 is going to be presented tomorrow. There is a separate pillar for legal frameworks. A lot of these things will repeat there's the same way, but it's going to focus on exactly what we need to do, what policies we need to make up to make sure we make a proper implementation path for us. This also means not just this pillar, all the pillars have a lot of challenges. We have to overcome all of these challenges. And as we repeatedly heard, absence of data sharing culture. People don't want to share the culture, don't want to share the data. And that is a culture that has been in place because of absence of frameworks, because of absence of policies. And I can tell you, many people who are working in agencies, they are actually just doing their job. Because they don't have the permission to share this data. As a person who is working in an agency, I cannot decide that I will share this data. It has to be a policy that defines that this data is shareable, you're supposed to share this data, it is mandatory to share the data. So that is an important distinction we have to make. Again, the same thing that we have discussed earlier here, low awareness of who is the owner of which registry. Few agencies have teams for data strategy and governance in terms of technical skills. A lot of duplicate data is there. Lack of monitoring, lack of accountability. No laws to protect or no laws about secure data sharing. Citizen consent management is absent. This is something we just discussed a while back, consent management. I has to consent on several occasions. For example, I must be given consent. I must certify, I must give permission for a specific agency to look up my data, to get my data. People might say, this is not your data, this is my data, this is Ministry of Health data, this is Ministry of Finance data, this is government data. At the end of the day, it is my data. I'm the citizen. So I have to be asked, do you want me to share this data with this ex-hospital, this ex-business, this ex-bank, with your mother, for example? By default, I would like to have access to health records of my kids, okay? I don't want them to give consent to me. It must be there for me. I should be able to view those data. But perhaps for grown-ups, you might want to actually give consent. I would like my brothers to see my data. I would like my mother to see my data. These kind of simple acts also are very, very important. Therefore, that is why a consent management becomes very, very important. You can't just access my data. I may not agree to share this data with you. Through these efforts, we see that we have a lot of opportunities as well. And again, some of the things are repeated here, Maldives 2.0. During this policy enforcement, we have the opportunity to formulate these principles. We have a lot of opportunities to work with each other, to provide a better integrated system. And we have some funds already in place where we can define some of this work, start up our work and go somewhere where we have a mechanism to start our work and say, okay, now we have some progress. Now we have 40% of our work completed, perhaps. And it will broaden our transformation as well. So a lot of other pillars are actually helping this pillar as well. We have Pillar 3, Pillar 8, national policy, which you have already heard multiple times. Basically, all other pillars, they work with each other. Although they are different presentations, all of them work together because they are trying to serve the citizen. And in terms of the KPIs and milestones, if we can achieve these targets and in these proposed approximate timelines, we are in real good position. We are really progressing. And probably we will be able to achieve this with this amount of effort that we are putting into, and we will make sure that we work together to achieve these things, these changes as proposed. That means our pillar actually brings a lot of benefits, contributes a lot into this Maldives 2.0. I will just go through them repeatedly very quickly because you have already seen me discuss these things. In terms of cybersecurity, in terms of digital identity, in terms of cross-agency data sharing, innovative solution design. And again, repeatedly, I'm just emphasizing this point. None of the pillars stand alone. All of them are interconnected. All of them help each other. Without interoperable data, the digital transformation cannot scale because everything is data. All of your policies, all of your statistics, they are only trustable when they are accurate. And that is the only true if you have proper trustable data. So in summary, This is an important, some of the things that I have highlighted here need immediate action. These things that we need to do today, we need to do this month, we need to make sure we have these in place, such as ratifying our data sharing legislation, mandating the registry ownership and data sharing compliance, approving of funding for our EFAS-related upgrades to make sure our digital ID is ready for such kind of digital data sharing, approve a national interoperability framework, champion the transparency and public-facing data for civic trust. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Naushad. And now for our panel discussion on open data sharing and governance. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderator, Dr. Aishat Shahuda Abdullah, Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Economic Development and Trade. Joining her on the panel are Mr. Hani Nasir, Senior Software Engineer at NCIT, Mr. Hussein Mohammed, IT Infrastructure Manager at NCIT, and Mr. Hussein Naushad, Senior Government Digital Service Specialist at the NCIT. Thank you.
Hello. Oh. Hello, everyone. How's everyone feeling so far? A bit tired? Excited? Because I kept hearing a lot of questions about data. And I'm very curious about data as well. So I think we're definitely going to get a lot of questions. So the floor is yours. Shall we start? Any hands? Any questions on data?
And on that side.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Hassan Sharif from Transport Ministry. In year 2001, I have attended same digital transformation seminar in this Nasandra Palace Hotel. At that day, I think Dr. Raja Malik was presenting about this digital transformation. Yeah, at that day, we talk about GEMS, government e-management services. So my question is, I thought that soon we're going to stop printing this letter and all the documents and get signed from seniors. So in that way, we can save some money and we wastage of paper, budget. So this is year 2025, but still we are printing. So when going to stop this one?
Panelist.
I would like to answer this question. We have actually developed GEMS very recently, and we are waiting for a go-ahead for the launch. In GEMS 2.0, we are actually not printing any letters. Even you will be drafting the letter within GEMS, and the letter goes to a approval stage. When the letter is approved, it goes to a signing phase, and the senior management level people who has permission to sign the document will have to sign within the GEMS and then send it through GEMS. So you don't have to actually print any document from that. But there's a big but here. That is because when we were actually training the staff of different agencies, we came across our leaders, our management level people who said that, no, I will not do that. I need ink and paper on my desk to sign it. So as we have been talking, the willingness of going digital is a very important thing. We can write very sophisticated softwares, but if the willingness is not there, I don't think it will go ahead. So we have to actually change the mindset of the people, and also this, I believe this is a very huge task for us, and it will take time. But when GEMS 2.0 comes in, just because of that, we have an alternative to print, but we are saying that it's not recommended. We do not recommend to print any documents. It has to go through it. So after a while, when everybody is comfortable with this, we will be phasing out that part from the GEMS. I hope this answers the question.
Let me also add some comments to that. Basically, as we saw the first presentation from our Estonian colleagues, when they said they made it mandatory for citizens to have a smart ID, for example, a mobile ID. So making it mandatory sometimes solves the problem. What Han is emphasizing is in GEMS workspace, they have systematically removed the option to print. So that is one way of saying, okay, you can't print now, therefore you don't have the option to print. But you can't really prevent people from printing unless people have the mindset of, okay, let us not print. So therefore, the pathway to, although this question is not related to data sharing platform, is related to digitalization, of course. The pathway to paperless is, as our minister, head of NCIT, repeatedly tells us this, going forward, we must go to paper light first. Achieve paper light first, then you can achieve paperless. Paper light is we use less paper. We don't say we are not going to print at all. The second problem is, even if the documents are online, even if the documents are on the computer, you still need a mechanism to make sure this document was actually signed by you. And that is where the digital ID, secure digital ID comes into the picture. Because I have to prove that it was my signature. And that is the reason why proper public key infrastructure is needed, whereby you can authentically sign the certificate, sign the letter, sign the document using your ID. That is a proof that no one else signed it, I signed it. Once we achieve that, people will start going for paperless. I believe that.
Shall we have the next question? Shall we first have the gentleman on the very end, and then the one on the second column, and then the one in the middle, the third? Yeah.
So it's me?
Yes.
Okay, Azmi here from Agriculture Ministry. So I'm very excited to hear regarding the open data sharing. There are two aspects. One is from the community. There are a lot of RTIs coming in all the time to find information, and most of the time it takes a hefty amount of time to actually answer that. And as policymakers, we always try to make the best decision based on facts, statistics. And to get that, we have to depend on other ministries, and we have to hold a lot of meetings, send out a lot of letters to actually get the information. So with this, I'm hoping that we will be able to get that information faster. So my question is, with this open data sharing platform, would you be considering to develop an AI model, possibly allow libraries to be formed with this data? And would you consider to develop an AI platform within use for the government? And also, would you be willing to provide for private parties, for example. I believe Jawabu has made very good progress with the AI already, so it would be great help for the public if that can be done. Thank you.
Definitely, I think no one is denying the involvement of artificial intelligence in making our lives better. But a lot of governments and a lot of companies even are handling artificial intelligence a little bit cautiously when it comes to data, especially if the data is citizens' data, because there are cases where once the data is provided to the artificial intelligence, what do you know about the citizens' consent related to those data that the artificial intelligence client is sharing over the internet to other people? So there needs to be some way of understanding of and study. I believe when it comes to sharing confidential data and sharing citizen data to an artificial intelligence system has a little bit of consequences that we need to study as a country, and this is something very, very new in the world as well, sharing a specific type of data with artificial intelligence. However, I accept that it is definitely going to make our lives easier, just like artificial intelligence is making cybersecurity easier. AI is going to make our lives easier if we have a mechanism to provide a way people can interact with government data through an AI client. Definitely, yes.
Thank you very much.
The next question to the one in the very end. And then the next question would be you.
Hi, thank you. We've just heard that from the previous presentation that there's a lot of work being done on the mechanism for the Maldives 2.0 work. So who's going to share the data, what data is going to be shared, so the registries and all of that. I'm just curious though, even though that's in the short term, what's the plan for changing the mindset? Because we've heard that the mindset is a really crucial part. We've just heard from the panelists that GEMS 2.0 wasn't as successful because there was a difference in mindset. So is there a longer term plan for changing the mindset or communicating this? And the second the second question is about inclusivity. So my father-in-law is fairly old. If we were to really rapidly change to a digital infrastructure that's going to be completely paperless, so as I said, light paper, how are they going to be serviced?
First of all, for changing the mindset, you might have noticed that each and every pillar presentations, we are having campaigns. We are going to conduct campaigns, educational campaigns. So that is how we plan to actually change the mindset one by one. So I hope these campaigns will help us to change the mindset. And for the second question, as we are all saying that we are not going digital only, we are going digital first. So anybody who don't want to do digitally, there should be a manual way to do this. So I think eventually when the new generations come up, they all will be digital and there won't be anyone who is not using digital services. So for example, my father is 73 plus years now and he is also in TikTok. So, but my grandfather was not. But my father is now. He is also a grandparent. So eventually we all will catch up and it will take some time. We all have to actually work together to achieve this. Maldives 2.0 is the start, inshallah. So we will achieve this. I hope so.
Just a follow-up on that though. So does that mean that the plan is to implement these two systems in parallel? So have the digital one going as well as the paper one for a time being at least?
Yes, as I said, we are not going digital only, digital first, which means manual processes will be there, but it will be limited. So for example, let's say when Bank of Maldives introduced their machines to deposit money, so still people didn't want to use the machines, right? They didn't trust the machines. They still want to queue up in the bank and deposit their money. So what they did was they started taking a fee to deposit the money. So to avoid that fee, people started to move the queue to the machines. So now I don't think anybody will go to the counter to deposit money. Nobody will go there. Everyone will opt for the machine. So like that, this will take some time. Everybody will go into the digital world and everyone will be digitalized.
The next question. And the gentleman in the middle. And then the next question would be the gentleman on the fourth row. Any other questions?
Assalamualaikum. Alun me Najis ane mirai me alun me wara me gina eki me project tauga di forum tauga hama masake kurevja me data sharing kandat tauga hama egota saida eki kes wara mige mihar fas har pres gina dose dana kanne alun me masake kurata hasako me companies adi legal entities ge data me ragalu identity yaki ema muhim වෙච්ච කාම බලනි data sharing na ei ko me companies ta me number di fahunnagotum adi identify me kora number ta hunnagotum wara undago kame me data share kurumaki hasako almenna me media adi customs ka tantano wara gina masake kuravicce den avunu me initiative wara me wara ragalu initiative adi mege tere almen me beenuwa ekkama ki hama mikantata sort out wegen diyo ehme episode ka ebeto plan ko for me digital identity tere namaves me entities the legal entity adi legal person service me identify wana gote me evskala arrangement ebeto plan ko for
තිවිදාලු යනේ company ta codify kurumuge wahakato noni ki
e dekanta vessama me misaka numbering de koi ebata fatwe by ministries tawga de by me hang organization tawga se benu korani eki format ta hemma formatting e ekkanta anekkanta ki e identify korun e hama ekakokan noni e company kan ane me platform tere.
Okay, me tibe from wara gina mihar me forum tere noni me summit tere ado hefenan MDS gawaka ei NCIT Maldives digital service ek gotuga regulatory body ek gotuga badalwa wahaka me dekevani badalwegen annayro wara baver kantattake MDS ke macha eba oi kurang majbur ve eba kurang ege tere wara gina kantattaku tere ekkantan ei digital registers tang identify kuruma echi harmonize kuruma adi echi standardize kurum mimasakkettakoge tereng algonmen divehi rajyega huriha digital registries tang identify kon echi tang hunnan jehene standards ta gaim ko mikantattaves algonmen na mandate ko famiyati kurumattaka emema algon abdusmi dannawa hai mi wara bodati masakkettake gawahaka mi dekkeveni මිවාහකතත් මිහින් දක්කාෆ මිකන්තත්ත කුරුම ටයිම් නගාන හම එගොතන් අලගොන බිස්නස් එන්ටිටීස් තවස් ඒ ඩිජිටල් රෙජිස්ට්‍රිය ගොතුග ගායම් කුරවි ඒ හුන්නන් ජෙහ ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් ත කණ්ඩේලි නම්බරින් සිස්ටම එච්චි සංගල කුරුම සේකතරේක හිමෙනෙන් දෙන් ඒගේ ඉතුරුම් මේ කෝපරේට් අයිඩෙන්ටිටි එක වාහක කන්නේ අලගොන හීවෙනේ මි දෙකෙවෙනි කෝපරේට් අයිඩෙන්ටිටි එක වාහක අලගොන මෙන් දක්කාත ෆුදේවරක ගින ආහාරතක මෙහාර වෙෆෝති algon men mi misala kan nagagen masake kuri Singapore ge Kopfas kya etche enas algon men ege masake kuramun danikon Singapore inves ete abandon coffee ei ha rangalo gote non kama badafa emem algon mes mihar explore kuramun midani corporate takan identity devena gottaka ki kobato bada ifas tereng hama corporate identity gaim kurumage masakke vesirad ko jargon kurana
algon chedana me digital identities, digital registries, identify kulmunga waram muhimmu kamen ay algomen MDS namuga algomen masay kurar algomen amille nonimme warbar kandatan e behure ehen agency taka guligen e befulunge expertise hodagen e consultation therein imme je kantatta ega terega misala ko companies taka deal korani economic ministry kam gwanama e befulunge expertise ge therein algomen define koran je kobakan e standard ki kihinakan standard define koraveni misala ka patient ge information a behegutun MDS ka nonimme innan je format ek nota innan je gote health ministry a consult noko eka kandata behure consult kuravigen discuss kuravigen goes ultimately hodena solutions tam ega iturun behure by solutions tak software solutions ka specific develop kure software ek kandele format ek kandele maki e software develop kuran difa ina farata kandele usulakam gawanam e befulun define kurani e id inna gote misalaka ehem bijje kam gawana best solution ne mikota algomen kura masago terega algomen kom mehem sama balana kandata ke mire befulun discuss kuravigen mika decisions tan nekon algon the nafasa devan
ඔන්න කරේනි මයිකෙන් මාෆන් ගෙදෙන්ගත දැන් මේ අල්මෙන් මේ ට්‍රේඩින් ප්ලැට්ෆෝම් ලොන්ච් කරිරුග දැන් ඒරු ගල්මෙන් කොරින් ඉෆෙෂන් මස්ටරාතා කි අස්තු ගේරුගස් මේ ඉන්ටර්පරබිලිටි ට්‍රේඩින් තරේ ගෙන්දි මට්ටක අසක දිමාවා ඉෂුස් තක හඩ්ලු කුරු මට්ටක ඒ කුරවන මස්වරාතා තරෙන් යුනික් numbering system en almen taaruf kuram wegen irus for extensively hori ha stakeholder ne akom mashwara ko gen unique numbering system en almen gennan emmek terege basevegen miharu trading platform ge terega ega operate kura hori ha legal entities taka den ege thurun legal entities taka takum mi naga fo hunne ek kala huddata e license with certificate with hem e beenwa unique numbering format taka miharu ha dafa almen e platform ge miharu implement ebakura ehema e den overall kon ekala mi interoperability diuma almen mi kura masakkatu ge elifen f yawalu e ehema miharu legal entities taka ngane mi unique hane mi entity identifier en innane beenu kure dane komme gotaka body registry ga adi en number di for hottas legacy number tan hottas miharu unique identity implement kure fo unnane e गिथुरुंग हम सरकार अलमी प्लेटफॉर्म में अन्ना हुरिहा सरकार के मुअस्ससा तक एक ही मिका लीगल एंटिटीज तक दुकुरा हुद्दे तक दीफोन हुरिहा लाइसेंस एवियस सर्टिफिकेट एवियस परमिट एवियस ए हम यूनिक प्रोडक्ट नंबर एवियस हम इशू कुरेफा ए अलमें तेरेगा हम इंटरपरेबल कॉम्बिनेशन कुरेवेन गोतंग एक मेहर इंप्लीमेंट को फेक एप्लीकेशन ने तैयार कुरेफा होस्ट कुरेफा ए बेनुवा हमको मफरात का देवे का हल गोतक मैं रेडी को होती है तो हम हमें मालूमात हिस्सा कोलम बेनुवन
आप शुक्रिया
The next question for the gentleman on the fourth row, and then the one on the second row, the lady on the second row. Fourth row.
Assalamu alaikum. Irfan Anget, I'm a Ministry of Cities. I'm also representing the tech community as well. My question is based on the title on the, we are talking about the open data sharing. Are we talking about broadly we use open data as publicly available data. So are we on the same page as when you are using the term open data? This could lead to a second part as well.
That's true, yes. Is the name open data refers in relation to the government, in relation to how the government operates. So in terms of agencies having access to the data that they need to access. It's not really about sharing the data to the public, because delivery of services to the citizens is a separate entity altogether. How it is delivered is a different issue. But the data sharing platform, of course, plays a huge role in that, allowing these data to be provided through that mechanism. However, there is a difference because when it comes to open data sharing, a lot of requirement is there for research projects, for statistical purposes, for NGO data requirements. There is a requirement to have some set of data available. One of the things that we will consider is providing access to anonymized data wherever it makes sense. because a lot of research work for university students and also a lot of work related to statistics, NGO requests can be fulfilled if the data can be anonymized in some form whereby the data is useful for them.
Yeah. My understandings and my beliefs is to open some sort of data, like medical data, not personal data, maybe a medical outbreak or something where developers of Maldives can actually contribute their technology intellects, where they can, or data scientists, where they can use AI to maybe predict an outbreak or something, or maybe whether, do you plan to share these sorts of data with the public?
The MDS as a Maldives digital service is only going to work on the framework that enables the data sharing. Which data gets shared with who is a different story that we will have to come up with, because a lot of agencies own the data. We don't own the data, we provide the mechanism to share the data. So either way, there is still going to be work whereby the source and the destination, they need to agree upon a mechanism to provide that I agree to share the data with you. We are providing that mechanism, the layer that allows them to exchange this data. The framework and the policy still needs to decide whether X can share the data with Y and what needs to be done before they share the data.
Next question to the lady at the front, and then I saw a hand at the very back. So the one at the very back. Next question.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. My question is regarding the consent management. Naushad has talked about the reluctance in data sharing even by the agencies and also by individuals. I think the main reason, we all know that main reason is the trust actually. For example, I wouldn't want my medical records to be published, end up being published in an anonymous social media account or something like that. And we all know that the one solution is bringing a proper legal framework, and also our esteemed fellow Estonian officials have highlighted on another solution, we being able to see who accessed our data. So my question to NCIT mainly is that when can we see a day, like for example in EFAS, when can I see like who accessed my data?
Okay, we have a project under the DMED project to develop a concept platform. This will be a separate component of EFAS. It is not a part of EFAS, but it will be, DMED project is actually funding the digital identity platform. Under that, we are getting the funds for developing a concept platform. So to get the trust that we need, first thing is we need these legislations. And with the legislations in place, I think when we have the consent platform, with the consent platform, just like in Estonia, they have mentioned, you'll see from which organization your data is being shared, to which organization it's been shared, and why it is shared. So when it's shared, again, in some cases, you might need to give consent. In some cases, you don't need to have consent to access your data. There are some scenarios like that as also. For example, if you blacked out and we want to see your blood type, we don't need your consent to check your blood type, so that we can give medical assistance to you instantly. So there are some cases that you need to give consent, and there are some cases you don't have to give consent. And when the consent platform is in place, as I said, you will be able to see why the data has been shared and to whom it was shared.
Next question at the very back. Can I see any other hands?
Hi. My question is specifically for Hussein because I want him to be engaged as well, so I hope you don't mind. We are talking about silos, right? And one thing that I have always thought about is we have government bodies with like 10 people, and we still have a server in the office, right? For what? For what exactly? I mean, people might get offended when I say this, but I don't think they need one, right? And having hardware on site requires a lot of upkeep, right? We need cooling, we need power, we need whatnot, right? To have this. So, if we are going to store this data at the agency, relevant agency or relevant ministry, right? Are we going to depend on this, or do you have a better plan in mind for the future? Because I don't think this is a very good use of finances to continue like this, right? Our population is smaller than a typical company in China, right? They might have 1 million employees, right? And I'm sure they don't have a data center for each department, right? So just wanted to clarify, what are your thoughts on this for the future, right?
Definitely, NCIT will be supporting to act as the backup for everyone. So of course, the organization may at the moment keep their data themselves. Of course, NCIT will support with all the facilities that we have to help you, keep a copy at the central data center for safety. But when the systems come into place with this Digital 2.0 Act, I believe this is a discussion for tomorrow. Despite that, of course, I'll let you know actually how this is going to work. So the cloud data center is going to come into existence. Instead of investing on themselves, of course, they can focus on the application instead. So NCIT will be the primary location where you can keep your data securely. NCIT will ensure that your data is protected physically with all the measures that require to be there. So in that aspect, of course, individually you may not need to do it in the future. Of course, you can depend on us at that time. Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to remind the audience that tomorrow we have more presentations and more pillars, and one of the pillars that, as Hussein mentioned, is the sovereign data, government sovereign data center or cloud. So secure sovereign digital infrastructure is a separate pillar that's going to be presented tomorrow. So you will hear more about that in that presentation in terms of data center and data storage.
Next question from BML, and then Jalal.
Okay. Is there any effort being done to digitize the old data and paperwork, especially after the fire? And if you could give some more detail about identifying what is the vulnerable and at-risk data, and is it part of this initiative as well?
I believe that is one of the mandates of the MDS. So when MDS is formed, I think I believe we will be actually conducting a project to do that, because as you mentioned, due to the recent fire, we lost a lot of records which was on paper. So we need to actually digitalize that as well.
I think it's important to highlight the point that was raised by our Estonian colleague earlier. Digitalizing has a strategy. The way you digitize is not the paper. The paper should not be digitized by taking a scanned copy of it. That is not the way to digitalize, right? We digitalize it by digitalizing the information in those paper so that they will be available for sharing to someone else in case they need the data, not the document itself. There is nothing useful if you give someone a PDF document. But if you give them the data in the document, that data might be helpful. So there is a specific way to achieve that as well. But definitely, digitalizing those data is one of our goals, yes. But in terms of something to do with the fire incident and these things, there is no specific information I can give at the moment.
Next question.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Jailam. I'm from Jawab. So when we're talking about data, especially personal data in the Maldives, we have had several leakers in the past. So, like for an example, when near any election, you would see different websites that are developed by different parties that actually have all the information that is collected by the government hosted on these party websites. So definitely these are breaches in data, and these breaches, I believe, are illegal in some form. So the question is, are they illegal? And with the new policies in place, what will be the penalties and the punishments which will be given to such incidences, such organizations?
The Data Protection Act and all the regulations related to the data, definitely, once they are formed, they will define several details related to what your question. I mean, specifically, what is the punishment or what is the penalty? This is not specifically mentioned because for those specific cases, we can identify and we can define the framework for it. A very general framework is defined. That way, it makes it, it gives guidelines on what are the penalties or what are the specific cases which we can consider which are prohibited or in order to protect the data. So you are concerned about the data leakage is coming because there is no framework, because there is no policy that prevents the protection of the data. Similar way, Cyber Security Act, similar way cyber crimes are defined, we need to define the data also in a secure way so that whoever is leaking the data gets responsible for it. Additionally, of course, you heard the Cyber Security Agency when they discussed about the security aspect. The reason why they are leaking because they are not secure. The systems are not secure. If there is such a system, it has to be analyzed, it has to be fixed. So one of the goals is not just coming up with the policies, but also doing a proper assessment of the assets and protecting those assets from cyber attacks, from those kind of attacks which you have mentioned earlier.
Any further questions? Aisha, yes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aisha from Women in Tech. I have two questions. One is a statement, the other is a question. The first one, you mentioned about the culture, change in the culture. I think a lot of countries have adopted the so-called data literacy programs. I don't believe that one campaign or a whole nationwide campaign is going to help. But I believe it has to be a long-term commitment that we need to give. Because we are also talking about giving opportunities for innovation and how to actually make data-driven decisions. And I think a lot of policymakers as well need that skill. And my first question is, when we talk about digital ID, data exchange, and everything goes to MBS, and who will be responsible for governing the whole thing? Yeah, thank you.
It already mentions this MDS as a governance body. MDS will be looking after the development of these policies. However, these are interconnected things. I mean, the National Cyber Security Agency is there, responsible for defining separate policies related to security and cyber security, which means even if we form policies, we have to make sure we align with them in terms of data security. So it's not a job of a single agency. There is a lot of coordinated efforts that need to be done. I think that you will understand as well. If we can do the job right, that means we will be able to form proper policies that will prevent from having such issues. And for your first statement, I definitely support that. It's very, very important for education and digital literacy, and the pathway for it is to achieve that. Then only people will have the awareness of what you are mentioning about.
Okay, thank you.
Colleague from Estonia.
Yes, thank you. I actually don't have a question. I have a couple of comments about, first of all, the scanning of the documents. It depends on the documents, actually, because historical documents sometimes might have value. Let's say you have the documentation about land ownership or architectural drawings of buildings or apartments and so on. So these are very useful to actually scan, so that you would have the historical plans that were there. But this re-engineering of business processes thought is more like directed to the future, so that you change the process that you're starting to do from today in the future, so that you won't do all of the manual steps that you were doing earlier. Also, I wanted to comment a bit about the consent management. I hear about the consent management a lot today, also yesterday it was mentioned. So I would say that don't overdo this consent management, because when a citizen logs into the system and wants to receive a service from the government, then I don't want to give consent every time. I want to receive the service. So this is rather a thing that you need to regulate when the private sector is involved in the ecosystem and they want to access some sort of information, because we are all citizens of our country. We are eligible for the services, and also it goes to the health data. You can't restrict the medicine workers to access your health data. Otherwise, you have a very big problem when an accident happens. So you can hide some parts from your family doctor, for example, but the family doctor is not a part of the national healthcare system. They are also a private sector service provider. So this consent issue should be already solved on a legislative layer rather than asking consent for everything. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. Yes, sir.
Thank you as well.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, there are some cases where you don't need to give consent. So this is one of the cases there. The health worker will not ask for your consent to give you medicine, right? So there will be a lot of changes, and we are also learning, and we need to do a little bit of research before actually implementing the consent management system. We need to learn from the people who have already implemented this consent management system, like Estonia and Singapore as well. So we'll be looking into these things, and we'll be learning from the mistakes you already have made. Thank you.
Last question.
This is not a question, actually, it's just a humble request. Based on the name, again, open data, the term, since it's the term widely used in the public, open data means publicly available data. So I would suggest to actually change this term, since it's one of your pillars. These are not open data.
Definitely, okay, yes, we will consider that. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone. I'm pretty sure you have learned a lot of insightful points from all the discussions, and I'm pretty sure the experts have taken away a lot of technical know-hows in how to move forward. And with that, this panel discussion is completed. Let's move on to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you to our panelists, and thank you, Dr. Shahuda, for moderating the discussion. We will now take an extended break. Refreshments have been arranged for you outside. Please join us again at 8 p.m. for the evening session. We look forward to welcoming you back. Thank you.